This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. John, good to see you at the beginning of the week. Thanks for being here.
It's always a pleasure.
Good. Did you have a good weekend?
I had a lovely weekend, somewhat relaxing with just enough activity to keep the blood flowing. So that was a good one.
All
You?
right. Same. We actually did a little
Okay, good.
movies in the park out in my neighborhood, so I got to watch.
Oh, I read about that by the State Cinema Society. Yeah. Did you have a good time?
We did. We watched some film shorts from the Arkansas
Yeah.
Cinema Society, and then one of my all-time favorite Disney movies, Aladdin, with Robin Williams in there. So
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And there were refreshments served, and it wasn't too hot.
It was nice weather, actually. It had cooled down when the sun went down. It was good. There's a little breeze, no mosquitoes. Can't ask for much more than that.
That sounds idyllic for
Not in
Arkansas.
the late July, for sure. So, or
Yeah.
mid-July.
Yep.
Let's begin today with some reflections on State Treasurer Jimmie Lou Fisher. She passed away after, we found out she passed away after you and I visited last week. Longtime Politico on the Arkansas scene, quarter of a century almost in public office. The 2002 Democratic gubernatorial nominee gave incumbent Mike Huckabee a pretty good run for his money there. What do you recall the most about Jimmie Lou Fisher? What are some of your reflections on her public service?
I went to cover the state capitol in 1980, maybe 79. Clinton was young governor, and of course, most of my attention was focused on the governor's office. But everybody I got to know in the governor's office, the name that came up all the time was Jimmie Lou Fisher. The wonderful Jimmie Lou, right across the hall there as the state treasurer, and eventually got to meet her. And I remember how friendly and positive she was, and I sort of understood how she was beloved. And then I came to realize that she was a strict party person. I don't mean party like revelry. I mean like the political party. She was and she could revel a bit as well. But she's something we don't have anymore on a prominent level in Arkansas, which is a popular, generally accepted rural Arkansas Democrat. Yellow dog, dyed in the wool. That's what she was. And that's the basis on which she was widely beloved in those days. And she was, and I say this, I hope this is not inappropriate terms, but in the way of a good old boy, rural Democrat, she was a good old girl, rural Democrat from Paragould and Greene County, who could play the game at a statewide level in a very engaging way. And actually, I think she was auditor when I said she was treasurer. Later, she was treasurer, unless I've got that wrong. And then the other thing I remember is she was the last of a breed. In 2002, she, as a woman in Arkansas, ran pretty well for governor as the Democratic nominee against popular Mike Huckabee, who was quite a talented political figure. And she gave him plenty of competition. And the race was somewhat in question until late, but credible. And the only statewide Democrat of any credibility after that was Mike Beebe, who was a rare case because he was so moderate and experienced in government. But she was something we don't much have anymore in Arkansas, unfortunately.
Yep, she ran that year. Mike Beebe parked it over in the AG's race where he ran unopposed even in that year.
And that goes back to her being a party person. Beebe was, I like Beebe. He was a good governor, good guy. But he only ran when he could win. And when he was certain of winning. He liked to lock things down, like some of his big settlements as a lawyer, and like a lot of his legislative work. Somebody had to run against Huckabee in 2002. BB had opted out because it wasn't a lockdown win, and she came to the aid of her party, and she ran vigorously, and she had Huckabee engaged and a bit on the run for a little while. I forget you may remember what'd she get? Mid 40s, low 40s? I forget.
47%.
Well, see, that's high 40s. That's pretty good in that day and age against a popular one-term governor with a lot of political skill. So the last of a breed, a beloved rural Arkansas Democrat, liked by nearly everybody who knew her. That's how I'd sum it up.
All right. Let's turn our attention to what the Democrats are doing right now fairly effectively in terms of stirring up some public support for rising teacher pay in special session. You've had a lot of chatter on social media. There's a lot of stuff going back and forth. There's been some responses from some Republican leadership on this. Governor Hutchinson wants to put a teacher pay increase on the special session call, but has said there's not enough legislative support there. Do you think that all of this activity, and Senator Keith Ingram has put out a letter with all the Democrats from the legislature signed on it this Monday morning, basically saying, we hear you teachers and we want to support a teacher pay increase. Could it still get on the special session call?
Well, I'll tell you, I believe last week I made a passing reference to some teachers circulating a petition, and that was sort of a good thing in terms of heightened advocacy by teachers, for teachers, and for the education ethic often lacking in the state. I didn't suggest it a week ago that it was going to go anywhere. It's gone somewhere in a week. Now, whether it can continue to go somewhere to the point that something could happen, like the governor could say, maybe I'll put this on the call. I wanted to do it, and the temperature has changed. Or somebody will attempt to have it declared germane, and they'll have a fight over that on the floor if it's not on the call, or then it'll require suspension of the rules, which will extend the session and open it up. I don't know where it goes. I just know that teachers and these advocacy groups and Democrats have had the best week in legislative politics that I can remember in years, because this thing is gaining some traction. Now, you can get misled on social media with all the talk, but I'm telling you, like yesterday, I spent a little time on the phone with some conservative Republican legislative types, and they're a bit on the defensive. And I think we're getting ready to see some conflict with state legislators saying, hey, these school districts could have used some of that COVID relief money for retention bonuses, and they didn't do it. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I just know some people, and I don't know if that's a fair thing to say. I just know that I was hearing that yesterday from some in the legislative ruling establishment. They're more bothered than they normally are. They've had everything their way, and they don't. And these folks are coming up on them with a little bit of credibility and a little bit of energy. Whether they can sustain it. When we start the session, 2 more weeks, 2.5, 3? I don't know when it was. August 8th. Now, I know it was August 8th, but I was trying to figure out what it was today. So it's about 2 weeks, 2 or 3. So it's fascinating. There's been nothing happening on the center left rural Democratic in that arena for a long time. But this is sort of blending liberal ideas with rural country ideas, which is our public schools are important. We've relied on our teachers. Our teachers are not appreciated or paid enough, and we're behind and getting more behind other states in terms of what we pay. And it's got the legislative establishment a little bothered right now.
This is one of those issues that I feel like is one of those populist issues that you would think is maybe not conservative, as you indicated here, raising, teacher pay, raising salaries for public employees in an environment where we
Right.
are not necessarily inclined to do that. But you look back at raising the minimum wage, medical marijuana, casino expansion. This kind of falls into that populist category to me of a popular winning issue outside of the urban areas of the state that someone could make some political hay with if they'd hitch their wagon to it. And it seems like that's what's happening.
Yeah, there's a little pulse suddenly in rural populism, and it is not all about. Here's the thing: it's not all about nationally defined issues, which it has been since about 2010. Now we've got something going. There's a local school nearby all over the state, and they are important to rural Arkansas. So this thing threatens to kind of transcend, and it has some good arguments for it. You can make some good political arguments. A very fine Republican, conservative Republican legislative leader, Senator Dismang, I think it was on your show, and he was saying that there's a process. We've got to go through this adequacy process, and we'll get to the teachers next year, but we've got to honor this process that we've laid out for doing an adequacy study and working it into that. And I came back with something that got pretty widely retweeted. Yeah, there was a process for cutting income taxes at the highest rate too, wasn't there? We were going to do it by law through into 2024, phase it out over that period. But as soon as these Republicans got hold of a $1.6 billion surplus, they blew up that process. They could do the same thing for teachers. And you don't have to wait for an adequacy study about the costs of maintaining an adequate education overall before you elevate teacher pay at a time we are becoming non-competitive. You could do that and study adequacy, and if your teacher pay is adequate already or more than is required to be adequate in that study, good for you. So there's some good points to be made, and this could be a good and worthy debate. And it's a classic case not of process, it's of priority. We got all this money. Do we take any one-time money and put it into ongoing expenses? These Republican legislative leaders are saying, well, no, you can't do that for teacher pay, but you can do that for income tax cuts. It's a classic philosophical policy priority issue, but a good one that could work, as you say, in a rural populist way to a pulse that we're seeing in among Democratic groups right now. I may be overselling it. We got some time. I think the debate's going to get a little more heated. We'll see. But it's a most interesting development that poses some interesting revelations about our priorities, and I watch with great interest.
Yes, we'll watch it unfold over these next couple of weeks. All right, he's John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always appreciate your insight. Thank you for being with us.
I appreciate being asked for my supposed insight, and thank you very much, Roby. See you next time.